Here at the Bartlesville Public Library. But this program today is for everybody. This is our Life Hacks continuing series, which is presented just by the Bartlesville Public Library. So, those of you who have been watching our Life Hacks series are finding out that we're presenting life skills for young adults who start out living on their own and they think, how can I cook? How can I shop? How can I clean? How can I survive without mom and dad? And how can I survive on a budget? So today we have with us Deidre. I'm going to say this, Deidre Scheck-Snyder.
Very good.
Oh my goodness, that was very difficult. Deidre Scheck-Snyder, who is a stay-at-home mom. So who knows better about how to make a home than a stay-at-home mom? She has a darling assistant with her today, a little sous chef, and her name is Emma. She's smiling so wonderfully. Emma, I don't want to try to say your last name again. So I'm just going to call you Emma. And today, Deidre is going to show you how to make maple roasted Brussels sprouts, can't wait, and sweet potatoes with cranberry and pecans. These two recipes are easy enough for beginners, but they will be luscious for the holidays. So without further ado, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to present Deidre, and you take it away, okay?
Great. Well, good afternoon. As Miss Joni said, we are going to be making the maple roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes. Not only is it yummy, but it's really colorful because the Brussels sprouts are green. Aren't they pretty? And then they come with great little red cranberries. And look, it's like Christmas, red and green. And then sweet potatoes, which as I was chopping some yesterday, I kept smelling pumpkin. And if you've ever had a sweet potato pie and a pumpkin pie, they're very similar. So I am eating sweet potatoes, but I keep smelling pumpkin. So it's a very colorful dish, and it is super, super, super easy. So my wonderful little sous chef here is going to help us out here as we get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use Brussels sprouts. I usually buy fresh Brussels sprouts. I don't usually buy frozen. And so my assistant here is going to start cutting off the ends. So with Brussels sprouts, once you get them washed, then you're going to cut off the ends, and then if there's any brown or yellow leaves on the Brussels sprout, you'll just pull those off, and then she's going to slice that in half, and then we're going to dump it into the bowl. Because of the magic of video, we actually already have a recipe in the oven going on. Because it takes about 25 minutes to cook, then we add one more ingredient, and it takes another 10. So I thought this way we could get that done, and we can show you all of this, and it'll speed up the process. So she's just cutting off the ends. They're just a little bit dry. I don't know if you've ever seen Brussels sprouts, but they grow in a big stalk and they clump on. It's kind of a cool looking thing. So we're just cutting off those dry ends and then peeling off those leaves. And it's really easy. I use a cutting board. I have one of these, is it Sentoku knives? It's not very big, but it works really well. Just watch those fingers. There you go, and one more. So like I said, we've already got the rest of the recipe. For the Brussels sprouts, you use about 4 cups of Brussels sprouts, which is equal to about a pound. I am learning that in the store, if you buy fresh Brussels sprouts, they come in those net bags, and those usually weigh just under a pound. So probably 1 bag would do fine, and that is just a couple of dollars per bag. So far, let's round it and say it's about $3 per bag, and then that's good to be right. So far we're $3 into our recipe. So we're going to dump all of those pieces into the bowl. And then again, we're going to add our sweet potato. So she is, my little sous chef, is going to finish peeling it. I like to cut my sweet potatoes for this recipe in about 1/4-inch cubes. That helps cook them a little faster. If your cubes are too big, it will take a little longer. So I think the smaller the better. So she's going to peel that, and I'm going to cut this into little cubes. We would add that into it. And like I said, it's already in the oven, ready to go. We made this yesterday. We had a big church potluck. So I practiced yesterday, and we made it for last night, and it turned out really well. So sweet potatoes aren't that expensive, and I don't know how much those were. I bought them in a bag. Sometimes they may be 90 cents a pound. And for this recipe, you only need about 2 medium sweet potatoes. So not very many, but once you start adding all of this together, it will make a pretty substantial side dish. For our family of 5, it would be perfect. So we're just going to chop these. You want to do some? All right. Once you start cutting those up. Shouldn't stretch it very good. I will tell you, if you are a mom or a dad and you have younger kids at home, start them in the kitchen. Teach them a few little skills here and there. You want to be there with them and keep an eye, especially if they start using the knives. You can go ahead and dump those in the bowl too. But I don't think it's ever too early to start them in the kitchen. Teach them some basic things. Scramble some eggs. It's really easy. And then as they get a little older, add some more responsibility, like chopping up vegetables, peeling vegetables. It will really help give them an advantage as they get older. Then they're not going off to college only knowing how to make ramen noodles. So teach them just little skills. That's the one thing that my husband actually taught me. He told me if I always do it, I will always do it. So I had to start teaching. I've got 3 girls, and Emma is my middle. And we started teaching them early on to get in the kitchen. And now all 3 of them, I have a 15-year-old, Emma is 9, my youngest is 7. They can all make their own breakfast. They can make dinner. We split up each week. Each girl is responsible for a dinner. So I'm helping them learn how to plan their menu, pick out their ingredients. I take them to the store. We purchase all the ingredients. We price check which one's cheaper. Cheaper's not always better, just saying. But that you just kind of go by trial and error. We never buy generic Oreos. They're not the same. They're really not. So, so we teach them these things so that as they get older, they're a little more prepared. And then if they want to go on and do greater things in the kitchen, they'll be set. Okay, so we've got 4 cups of Brussels sprouts, and we have 2 medium sweet potatoes, diced, peeled, and cut into about 1/2-inch pieces, 1/4-inch pieces. Then we're going to add about 1 cup of cranberries. You can use fresh. Right now, during this season, fresh cranberries are really easy to find. You can use frozen cranberries. And then we're going to talk here in a minute what else we can substitute. You want to throw that away? So that's the main bulk of your recipe. So I don't know if you can see. Again, it's not the whole thing, but we've got green and the orange and the red. It's really pretty and festive. So now we're going to add basically the sauce to it. So we're going to do the olive oil. We're going to do 4 tablespoons of olive oil. She's going to pour that in there. I'm going to set it on the counter. That way you can read it. You see that 4 right at the top? All right. She's going to pour 4 tablespoons of olive oil. I have been learning there are different types of olive oil, and olive oil that I'm using today is extra light taste, but it says right here, ideal for sauteing, baking, and frying. And you'll also find other olive oil that you might use for like dips. I love olive oil with the balsamic vinegar, and you dip your bread in it. So yummy, but it's a different type. So you can always check whatever you're wanting to use olive oil for, check on the bottle, but this one says ideal for sauteing, baking, and frying. So this is what we're using today. Then we're going to do 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Here you go. Nope, I know it does come out fast, doesn't it? That's good. Perfect. 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Then we're going to use, speaking of balsamic vinegar, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Pour that in there. It does smell kind of weird. It's a real strong scent. but it's yummy. Then we're going to use, oh, no, this one will work. Take the lid off. I know. All right, so then we're going to use a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you're a little heavy-handed on the cinnamon, it's okay. Move that out of the way. Here we go. All right, let's do half a teaspoon of sea salt. So we're gonna do half of this, okay? Just half. A little less. There you go. We can eyeball that too. And then I don't always measure, but a quarter of a teaspoon of black pepper. I'm just gonna sprinkle some in. Then we're gonna mix that all up. My little sous chef. Now, normally it would be the full 4 cups of Brussels sprouts, 2 sweet potatoes, cranberries, but again, it always amazed me on cooking shows where they would do it and then put it in the oven and pull one right out. So that's kind of what we're doing with that today. I'm going to pull out pot holders. So after a little bit, you'll have this. You'll have these roasted Brussels sprouts, the sweet potatoes, those cranberries, and this will cook for about 25 minutes. And the ultimate goal is to make sure that your sweet potatoes are soft. If they're still really hard, you may want to do a few more minutes. And then we're going to add a third of a cup. Yep, why don't we do about a half? Okay. We are going to do about a half a cup of pecans. I love pecans. I love pecans and oatmeal. I love pecans and chocolate chip cookies, even though nobody else in my family likes those. I like pecans. I like pecans in my yogurt. Yogurt is yummy. Just plain vanilla yogurt with some pecans and some maple or with honey. Okay, so we're going to stir this up a little bit. Sure. Oh, hey, that's hot, remember? Yep, there you go. Would you hold it like that? Perfect. So we're going to mix that up in there. A lot of that sauce, the oil, the vinegar is going to kind of settle to the bottom. So I think it reduced because we opened the door. Okay, good. Once you add your pecans, then we're going to add it back into the oven. It keeps beeping at me. And this is going to cook for about 10 more minutes, and then it will be done. A couple of things to know about this recipe, depending on your dietary needs. The great thing about this is, number one, it's a vegan recipe. So just vegetables, olive oil, it's vegan. So if you have family members that are needing those restrictions, this is perfect. Not only is it vegan, but it's gluten-free. And I've noticed that a lot of people have started developing these intolerances to gluten. And gluten is in a lot of things. But this recipe, totally gluten-free. And if you have any family members that are trying to eat paleo, where they're restricting some of the different things, this would also be a good paleo recipe. But here's the great thing, is you can actually substitute different things in and out. So you can adjust a recipe to suit your tastes. So if vegan is not necessarily an issue, you can also crumble up bacon and add bacon to the Brussels sprouts, and that's really yummy. So in that situation, you would cook your bacon ahead of time. When I'm going to use crumbled bacon, I actually cut all of my bacon into little cubes and then fry it up. That way, all I have to do is drain it and I'm good to go. You can also fry it in strips, and then once it's cooled off a little bit, you can crumble that up yourself. Either way is fine. And then you would add that to your Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes and cranberries before you cook it the first time. So it can just go right on in. So if vegan recipe is not an issue, then you can add bacon to that and kind of bulk that up a little bit. We like bacon with everything. So you can also, instead of using fresh or frozen cranberries, I've also seen recipes where they will substitute in craisins, those little raisin-like cranberries. They're a little sweeter, I think, than just regular cranberries. And if you were to substitute the craisins in for regular cranberries, I would wait and add those in at the end. Maybe the last 10 minutes, or you might even wait till it's totally finished and then just stir those craisins in there. I do like leaving them in either regular cranberries or craisins because that just adds another splash of color. Another thing you could do with this recipe, if you just don't like cranberries, leave them out. And you still have the Brussels sprouts, the sweet potatoes, which is still colorful, and then the olive oil and all of that. So you still have a really tasty dish. If you wanted to put bacon in instead of cranberries, you can do that. So it's kind of a nice recipe that you can make it however you want it to satisfy the needs of your family. I like that it's colorful. My grandmother, I'm trying to think how old, if my grandmother were still alive, she'd be about 100 years old. And she was very, very big on plating your food. And so you could never have a plate of all the same color. So she would never, ever have grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn, because in her mind, they're all the same color. So you have to have color on your plate. And I have a friend that is in the restaurant business, and she says there should always be something green. So I think this recipe is great because, wow, look at the orange and the green and the red. So you've got this nice color presentation as well as it being really tasty and yummy. So it satisfies all of those things too. So we just have a few more minutes. I'm trying to think what else about this recipe. You don't want to cook, once you add the pecans, don't cook it too long. 10 minutes is about good. If you cook it too long, your pecans might start to burn, and there's nothing worse than burnt pecans. So a good 10 minutes, maybe 15, but once you get past that 10-minute mark, really pay attention to it so that it doesn't burn. Your Brussels sprouts will probably have a nice little browning to it. Sometimes don't be alarmed if your sweet potatoes start to turn pink, because it absorbs some of that juice from the cranberries and it will start to turn, but the taste is still really, really yummy. So like I said earlier, if you have kids, get them started in the kitchen. My girls really enjoy doing that, and it's good for them. I know that stereotypically the woman's place is in the kitchen, but you know, honestly, I have a husband that is probably a better cook than I am, and if I ever go out of town, I don't have to worry about the girls not eating because he cooks really well. I have some friends whose husbands probably cook better than they do, and it's great. It's fantastic when the guys know how to cook just as well as the girls do, because when you get into a relationship, it's a team effort. It shouldn't just be on one person. So teach your kids, teach them how to cook, and who knows, you might have the next Emeril or the next Ree Drummond in your house. You just never know. So turn them loose in the kitchen. And if they make a mistake, big deal. We just roll with it, don't we? Emma here can make eggs. She loves to make scrambled eggs. What else do you make? We make fried eggs. We're still working on that fried eggs. Her daddy's really particular. He doesn't like that yolk broken. So we're still working on that, but she's getting there. She can do spaghetti sauce, all sorts of things. And some of those recipes are really simple for kids. Spaghetti is super easy. Even if all you do is buy a jar of spaghetti sauce, kind of heat up some hamburger, brown some hamburger, drain that, stir in the sauce, and then cook some spaghetti, voila, they have a spaghetti meal. So get those kids in there and let them help out. And then that'll get them prepared if they go to college. If they move out on their own, if they skip college and get a job, they're going to be set. So, and then maybe they'll experiment as well. And cleaning up is an important part too, isn't it? So keep that kitchen clean. So I'm going to check on this here. It says it's got about 3 minutes. but I can smell it, and it smells really, really good. Did you make a mess over there, sister? Hey, why don't you find me a fork? See if there's one in a drawer. I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, they're soft. So, some of the bigger ones are a little bit harder. So, I'm going to turn that off. So, I don't know if you can see here, but once we're all done, we've got the Brussels sprouts. They've got some of that nice little roasting on it. Then the sweet potatoes. I don't know if you can see this one. It already kind of took on the color of that cranberry. And then the pecans. So it's a yummy dish. It's a healthy dish. And it's very colorful. And it would be great for either your Thanksgiving or your Christmas dinner. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time.
Deidre, we want to thank you for coming to Life Hacks today. And you did such a great job. Emma, you as well. What great cooking skills you have. They're getting started. And for those of you, I noticed that Deidre mentioned a lot about children beginning to help in the kitchen. But if you've already grown up and nobody did that in your family because they were busy or everybody worked or whatever happened, it's not too late for you. This is a wonderful recipe. We're glad that you joined us, and we hope that you will join us again for Life Hacks from the Bartlesville Public Library.